Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. If you have not done so already, join the Locked On Cougars Insider Group today. Get up to speed on everything I am hearing about BYU sports. Coming to your phone in the form of a text message. They got much more direct than that. The best part is you get a 14-day free trial. See if it's the right option for you, and just $4.99 a month to be a part of the Locked On Cougars Insider Group after that. So sign up today. Links are in the show notes, whether you're watching and or listening to this, and we'll see you in the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. All right, before we go on today's show, let's talk about a new addition to the BYU football program via the transfer portal, and that is one Reggie Frischknecht. Now, he's got a little bit of an interesting backstory. Those of you who pay attention to Utah high school football may not know Reggie's backstory even as much as I do, and I had to learn a little bit about myself. The thing about it is I knew that Reggie was a guy who was an absolute sensation when he was playing at Manti High School. Now, Manti High School has been competing, if I recall correctly, at the 3A level and may have actually been at the 2A level that he competed at in his high school career. Traditionally, guys from anything lower than the 4A ranks in the state of Utah are all but written off by a lot of high-level Division I coaches, especially at the Power 4 level. There's just a lot of question marks about, okay, does their ability translate over? The level of competition they're playing against, is it really up to speed as what you'd see in the 4, 5A, or 6A ranks in Utah high school football? Well, Reggie Frischknecht showed that what he showed at the high school level, which is absolute dynamite in terms of his overall production. I wrote this down when I looked him up. 163 career receptions over his 3 or 4 seasons at Manti, 2,709 yards, and 40 touchdowns. 40 touchdowns in his career. His senior season at Manti, 93 receptions, 1,360 yards, and just 17 touchdowns alone in that season. He was a guy that was a routine all-conference player of the week type caliber player his entire senior season for Manti. Well, that did not translate into a lot of high-level interest from colleges, and he ultimately enrolled literally just down the street at Snow College in Ephraim, Utah. Now, any of you who are familiar with Central Utah, Manti is neighbors with Ephraim in many respects. They kind of feel like they're the Provo and Orem of Central Utah, where they're literally like one and the same in many respects. I know. Don't get mad at me, Manti people. Don't get mad at me, Ephraim people. I've got siblings who went to Ephraim. I've been down there. I'm aware, but it's that close. And he went to Snow College this past year and had an absolutely marvelous freshman campaign. He ultimately emerged from this past season with 38 receptions for the Badgers, 740 yards, and 14 touchdowns. He's a touchdown machine, more than double of his next closest teammate, and the most at the NJCAA level, which is the National Junior College Association of America. It's the NCAA for junior colleges. He was absolutely awesome. And as a full qualifier out of high school, he didn't have to go to the junior college route. He was able to enroll at a 4-year university as soon as that season ended. And he ultimately signed during the winter months with Weber State. Now, he went to Weber State, went through spring ball, and I think ultimately decided, you know what? I think I'm better than this level, because he re-entered the transfer portal. I can only read into that from my vantage point that he went to Weber State, realized, you know what? I'm better than playing at the FCS level, ultimately decided to go back out on the open market, and BYU, by virtue of losing guys like Keelan Marion to the transfer portal, need a wide receiver or two to fill out the roster here. The bigger thing, I think, for a guy like Reggie Frischknecht is he has got size on his size. That's one thing I have not mentioned yet. He's 6'4". You can't teach that size as a wide receiver. And playing at the 2 or 3A level that Manti competed at, he is a man amongst boys at that size, at that level of football. And I think some of the question marks, okay, how does that translate over? I've also been told he runs somewhere in the 4.5s in terms of his overall speed. So at 6'4", listed at between 190 and 200 pounds. And if he runs a 4.5, how in the world did this guy not get picked up at some level other than what BYU is getting him at right now as a 4-year qualifier with 3 years to play? This could be a really, really savvy pickup for Fesi Sitake and company, because Fesi has shown that big-bodied receivers in BYU's offense can succeed. Look no further than Chase Roberts. Chase Roberts is not 6'4". I think he's listed at 6'3", but they have had success with big-bodied receivers. Neil Pau'u, who actually coached Reggie down at Snow College, what was Neil, 6'4" himself? They've had Cody Hoffman in the past. They've had Austin College. Guys who were 6'3", 6'4", Mitch Matthews at 6'6". They have had Nick Kurtz. Man, I'm pulling out all kinds of names. You remember Nick Kurtz? Yeah. the 6'6" giant himself. A lot of really, really tall, good receivers in BYU's recent history. And I think that's what Reggie Frischknecht's got to look at here. Now, is he going to come to BYU and start right away? I would highly doubt that. He will have to come in, learn the playbook, compete for playing time with a lot of other wide receivers who are chomping at the bit to show what they're capable of. I figure BYU's projected starting wide receiver trio for me right now is Chase Roberts, JoJo Phillips, and Parker Kingston. Now, at 6'4", he's not going to likely play the slot position that Parker Kingston occupies, but he could fill in at either spot between JoJo or Chase Roberts. But that does not include guys like Cody Hagan, Tate Nakua, Marquise Taliulu, Dominique McKenzie, LaMason Waller. There's a lot of wide receivers on this roster for BYU. Had already opportunities to go through spring camp and show themselves what they're capable of to the coaches, that a guy like Reggie Frischknecht have to come in and unseat for playing time. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's unlikely. All I am saying is that this is if you want to call it a gamble, this is the right type of gamble for BYU to take. He proved himself at the junior college level. We have seen junior college players succeed at BYU at high levels across the board at literally every position you can name on the gridiron. I think Reggie Frischknecht, if 6'4", 200 pounds, the production he had in high school combined with what he produced at Snow College, yeah, this is the right type of guy to bring in. And yes, maybe this year he plays a bit of a role, where he's maybe playing special teams, kind of learning the offense, getting up to speed. But then as a junior and senior in 2026, 2027, does he emerge finally and make the position his own? That is the ideal scenario for Reggie Frischknecht could do for BYU. His name's not easy to say. Frischknecht is going to be one that a lot of people out there are going to butcher. And I was doing some research on him, and there's a really funny story written by an ESPN reporter about Reggie's dad. Now, Reggie's dad, Devin, also was a junior college star at Snow College, ultimately went to Washington State, played for the Red Cougars, as it were, up there on the Palouse, and apparently had a breakout performance in this individual game. And the story that ESPN wrote said that his name was just butchered time after time after time in the game that he starred in for the Washington State Cougars, the Wazoo Cougars. Now, Reggie obviously coming closer to home, I think this could be a really, really good time for him to join the program, because he's not going to come in, as I mentioned, with the expectation he's got to step into a starting role. He's got to be the guy. He's got to produce at this level. That is not the case here. He's got time on his side because, as I mentioned, he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. He's got a redshirt year as well. So if he comes in and he falls too far behind, you just redshirt him this year. You let him really train, get up to speed, work out with BYU strength and conditioning coaches, learn the playbook inside and out, and then maybe unleash him next year as a redshirt sophomore who's got 3 years of eligibility to really make an imprint on this BYU football program. I don't think Reggie will be the last wide receiver BYU looks at. I think there's a lot of guys out there. Tiger Bachmeier is a big name out there who just recently entered the transfer portal from Stanford. The Bachmeier family, his brother as well, there's Hank, there's Bear. Hank already played out his eligibility, but Bear was a 4-star quarterback prospect, while him and Tiger, which, by the way, incredible names, Hank, Bear, and Tiger Bachmeier. What a trio of names there. But the 2 younger Bachmeier brothers are in the transfer portal, leaving Stanford. Could BYU swoop in and pick them up? We'll see. There's been some rumor about BYU's interest in them. I know there was interest in them when they were in the high school ranks. Could that come back around this time? I think a guy like Tiger Bachmeier, I think he could be like a Reggie Frischknecht, a savvy pickup for Fesi Sitake if he's interested in taking on that role. But the good news is Reggie, I think, is going to become a guy that BYU fans are going to be excited to root for. And the nice part is he's one of those fun stories that comes out of small school Utah high school football and emerges as what could be a really, really fine player for BYU. I think the best example of it right now is Bruce Mitchell. Bruce Mitchell played at South Summit High School up there in Camas, Utah. It's two-way football. And Bruce was a man amongst boys. And I watched him with my own eyes, and I had question marks if it was going to translate over when he committed to BYU. Well, it didn't translate over when he signed as a defensive lineman, but since coming over to the offensive line, he's been an absolute revelation as BYU's projected starting center this year. You can find those guys at the lower ranks of the high school football level in Utah. just as a little more extra digging to unearth that proverbial diamond in the rough along the way. All right, that's going to do it for today's edition of the podcast. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Tomorrow, it is May, everybody. The 5th month of the year begins tomorrow. It has flown by, but as always, thank you for your support of the podcast. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. And as always, thank you for being an everydayer with us right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.